Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Bava Kamma. We are up to Perek Yud Mishnah Dalet. Today's Mishnah Yod should be Le'ilun Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbai V'Eliyahu ben Burcha Israel of Chana ben Miriam Sason ben Ryan Yoshua ben Shifra Menuchatam began Eden Amen and Avdi ben Chaim lechaim v'derefua shelemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa B'tor Shah Cholei Yisrael and Achlama Merav ben Amin Od Zion Chai ben Dvorah. The Mishnah discusses the law where one person suffered a loss as he was saving the property of another. Zeba bechavito shel yain v'zeba bechado shel dvash. Two people were walking, this one carrying, literally was coming with his barrel of wine, and this one carrying his jug of honey. Nisdeka chavit shel dvash, and the barrel of honey cracked and the honey began to leak out. V'shafach zet yeno v'yitzil et dvash tocho. The one who was carrying wine poured out his wine from its barrel and saved the honey in it, meaning he poured the honey into the empty wine barrel. He did this because the other person's honey was worth more than his wine, but the same ruling would apply where they were worth the same. He now demands that the owner of the honey pay him for the wine that he lost. En lo ela scharo, the law is that the owner of the wine receives only his fee, the fee for his labor and for the use of his barrel. Saving the honey is a fulfillment of the mitzvah to return a lost object, the shavat avedah. Although one may not usually accept payment for this mitzvah, this case is different because saving the honey requires him to lose his wine and there is no obligation to save the property of another at the expense of one's own. Therefore, by pouring out his wine for the sake of saving the honey, this person went beyond the requirements of the mitzvah, and as such, he is entitled to payment for his labor and the use of his barrel, but he is not paid for his lost wine. Since he did not make an agreement with the owner of the honey to be paid for his wine, he is not entitled to compensation. Now, the Mishnah refers to a case in which the barrel of honey was wrapped with something that prevented the honey from flowing out all at once, allowing it to drip out a little at a time. Since the honey drips out slowly, there is a possibility it can be saved, therefore is not considered ownerless, hefker. But if the barrel is not wrapped and it cracked in a way that allows all the honey to flow out immediately, the owner loses his ownership of it, since he is unable to save it from going to waste, and it would belong to the owner of the wine when he saves it. But if before he poured out the wine, he said to the owner of the honey, I will save your honey, but you must give me the value of my wine, and the owner of the honey agreed, the owner of the honey is obligated to give him the value of the wine. A similar case, Shataf na'ar chamoro v'chamo chavero, a river overflowed and swept away someone's donkey and the donkey of another person. Shelo yafeh maneh v'shel chavero 200, his donkey was worth a maneh 100 zuz, and the other's was worth 200 zuz. Now the law would be the same where both donkeys were of equal value. The Mishnah mentions that they were worth different amounts only because a person is unlikely to sacrifice his own property in order to save the property of another, unless the property being saved is worth more. So he left his donkey to drown and saved the other person's donkey. He then demands that the owner of the more expensive donkey pay him the value of his lost donkey. En lo ela scharo. The law is that he receives only his fee, the amount it would have cost to hire a person to rescue the donkey from the river, but he has not paid for the loss of his donkey. But if before he abandoned his donkey, he said to the owner of the donkey, I will save your donkey, but you must give me the value of my donkey. And the other agreed. The owner of the saved donkey is obligated to give him the value of his lost donkey. And in this case, and in the case of the honey, the Tosfot Yom Tov explains, if the owner of the honey or the owner of the donkey is not present, the rescuer can make this condition in front of a court. And that is end of Mishnah Daled. Mishnah Hay deals with the case where someone stole land and it was then taken from him. His obligation to return the stolen land is discussed. If someone steals a field from another, meaning he moved the boundary marker between his field and the other's field, so his field now included part of the others, or he forced the owner out of the field and occupied it himself, untalua masikin, and then masikin take it from the thief. Masikin, the elucidated translates as martyrs. The law is as follows: Im makat medinahi, if it is a statewide plague, meaning that they were also taking the fields of others, Omer lo hare shelcha lefanecha, the thief can say to the owner, behold, what is yours is before you, and he does not have to pay for the loss of the field. The owner cannot blame the thief for losing the stolen field to the martyrs, since they would have taken it regardless of who had it. Now we have learned that once a thief performs a kinyan with the property he stole, he becomes responsible for it. Should it suffer any loss or damage, even due to an accident he could have not prevented, he must pay the owner what it was worth when it was stolen. This law, however, is limited to movable objects. Land, by contrast, can never be said to be in the possession of a thief, rather remains in the possession of the one from whom it was taken. Kalka and anigzeled, land cannot be stolen. Therefore, if the land is damaged or stolen after the thief took it, the owner has to bear the loss, and the thief is not obligated to compensate him. In the Mishnah's case, then, where martyr seized the land from the thief, he does not have to pay the owner. If the owner wants his land back, he must take his case up with the martyrs. Now, like we said, this law applies only to land. If someone stole movable property, he indeed becomes responsible for anything that happens to it. He must pay the owner even for loss, damage, or theft that he could not have prevented. But if the thief was taken by the martyrs because of if the field was taken by the martyrs because of the thief, meaning they took it only because it was in the thief's possession, the thief is obligated to provide the owner with another field of the same value or pay him the field's value. Although land cannot be stolen and therefore the thief is not responsible for what happens to it, the rabbis punished him and obligated him to pay for the field, since the martyrs would not have seized it had he not taken it in the first place. A similar situation, if someone steals a field from another and a river flooded it and ruined it, the thief can say to the owner of the field below, behold, what is yours is before you, and does not have to pay for the field since he had nothing to do with its destruction. And that is the end, Rabotai, of Mishnah Hey and today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have Erev Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.